Well, all right, everybody. We are talking about Joe Rogan again, the biggest podcaster in the entire world, and it's not even close. Like, by a lot, he is the biggest podcaster in the world. What I need you all to know is that anytime I compliment Joe Rogan's ability to reach a large audience, that's not me, like, complimenting Joe Rogan as a figure, but we do have to recognize how influential of a figure he is to recognize how dangerous it is when he says bad, stupid shit, like the hydrochloroquine and ivermectin stuff, the anti-vax stuff, the anti-mask stuff, the nonsense like transphobic conspiracy theories he's pushed, but he's also had his fair share of W's. Like, where's that one clip where Joe Rogan corrects Matt Walsh? Like, can we all admit, for all of Joe Rogan's, mistakes and all of his, like, massive fuck-ups and drawbacks, this moment kind of almost made it worth it. Can I find this? It's a clip that the left should actually be sharing around, so you'll never find it quickly. Is this it? Yeah, here it is. Do you guys remember this? This was so satisfying. If Joe Rogan was known for more situations like this, and like what we're about to watch, instead of the constant platforming uncritically of conspiracy theories and lies and bullshit, I don't think nearly as many people on the left or in the mainstream would take issue with Joe Rogan as they do. Like, this was a pretty good moment insofar as fact-checking a claim made on a show. And I wonder if this started happening more often because of the criticism and because of the canceling and because of the public pressure from to not uncritically platform these people when they make these claims. But this moment, I will never forget it. It's so funny. Because Matt Walsh is one of those figures that never allows himself to be challenged on these points in particular in the public setting. That is not something he allows. These points are only arguments he makes on pre-recorded, edited and uploaded curated content that cannot be live challenged. Hormone blockers aren't just gender affirming care for trans kids. Hormone blockers are what they give kids who have like hormone disorders too. Like, hormone blockers are not a trans drug. They're a drug that has for a very long time been prescribed to kids for other medical issues involving like hormone production. I know that, like, for example, I had a friend, this is a really fucking funny story. Okay, so I was in the swim team in my first year of high school, and there was a girl who was doing the, like, assistant job for the coach, like the assistant coach. And I thought she was cute. I also thought she was my age because she was, she looked like she was also in high school, right? And so I start talking to her fairly often, like, kind of flirty. And after about 4 days of this, she ends up dropping that she's 24 years old. She hadn't noticed that I was flirting with her, by the way. But she drops that she's 24 years old, and I'm like, what? I'm going to be honest, I genuinely thought you were another student at our school. And she was like, no, I'm just volunteered. I'm 24. I was like, you look really young. And she said, yeah, I have a, it's a hormone disorder. I forget exactly what it's called, but basically this made her look like she was roughly, like, I don't know, 15 or 16 years old, despite the fact that she's 24. Could have groomed you? No, she would not have groomed me at all. No, if I had asked her out, she would have absolutely been like, no, and do you understand why no on multiple levels? Like, yeah, it would have been really awkward had it not gone the way that it did. It went the best possible way it could have. But I feel like that story is a good example of how, like, there are just people out there who have hormone disorders that have nothing to do with being trans. Like, they are not trans, they are not intersex, they are not in any way, shape, or form related to the LGBT community, but hormone blockers and other related hormone replacement drugs. Hormone blockers and hormone replacers are not the same thing, by the way. Hormone replacers are hormone treatment, like actual hormones. Hormone blockers block certain hormones from being produced in excess or produced at a certain rate, depending on dosage. So, not the same thing. To be very clear, hormone blockers are, of course, fully reversible, something that Matt Walsh and conservative types like him will never admit. But, regardless of that little, information dump, I feel it's valuable to know. It's valuable to know. I feel like it's good to know that even the number that we're about to hear is being weighed upwards by non-trans kids getting medical treatment that has nothing to do with being trans or LGBT. Just remember that when you hear what the actual number is. Even if this stuff that he's saying was true, guess what also there was an exponential increase of over the years as it got more accepted? People identifying as gay. Conservatives going back to like the 80s and 90s have made this argument about gay people, that acceptance of gay people and like the platforming of gay people, them being allowed on TV, that kind of thing, has led to more people identifying as gay exponentially over the years. And that must be evidence not of there being a lot more gay people in society than previously thought that now feel comfortable in coming out and identifying that way, but instead that it's some sort of social contagion. And yet the same exact pattern happened with left-handedness, as Alan Netherson and 00 Ashroom 00 have pointed out in chat. Whenever being left-handed was heavily discriminated against as like a satanic or devilish thing, the rate at which people identified as left-handed or were left-handed was super low. But then when that stopped being punished in schools, because that was once punished in schools, we saw the rate of children being left-handed rise steadily and exponentially over like 2 decades, 3 decades maybe, and then it plateaued out. Because there was always a set amount of left-handed people in society. It was just that they were being suppressed, and once they were no longer being suppressed, they all felt fine just being left-handed and presenting as so. And so that number eventually levels out, because it's not some spreading social contagion, just like being gay isn't a spreading social contagion, nor is being trans. There's just always been gay and trans people and left-handed people that exist, some percentage of the population, and once they are free to identify as they feel they are, really, then that number is just going to plateau out eventually. There's going to be a plateau in the amount of people identifying as trans or having gender dysphoria, because it's not a social contagion. It's not a thing people are deciding to do. Believe it or not, being gay isn't a choice. Conservatives, like people like Matt Walsh, insist that being gay is an urge that you have to always be resisting, which tells me a lot about them, Like, I'm sorry, but being gay has never been an urge for me that I've had to resist or that I've fallen to or whatever they say. Like, it's just a thing that people are, and I'm not. I like women. And so when they describe being gay as like a choice, it implies that they feel that desire and they have to fight it and make the active choice not to pursue it. That desire does not exist if you're straight. They are either bi or gay and like self-hating about it, or they're just repeating the whole choice thing because it's such a popular narrative. But whoever started the it's a choice thing was definitely bi or gay. Yesterday when I talked about how a lot of Americans have a very like common sense, sounds right to me type of thought process around this stuff, the trans adults are fine, but keep it away from kids argument, despite having no empirical grounding, is just a common sense argument that people default to. And that's one of the biggest advantages the right has. They take advantage of that defaulted to position of, I have no problem with trans people as long as they're consenting adults, but if they're kids, can't let them be doing that. They can't make those choices. It's such an easy decision to land on without any research or prior knowledge, because of course, right? Like, if you're completely blind going into this situation, going into this issue, obviously transitionary care is like overwhelmingly over the top to be giving to kids. Kids can't consent to that. But then when you actually do the research, you look at the data, you look at the medical procedures, how much more complicated and in-depth it is than you would just assume. It's not like kids just walking into a clinic and saying, I want hormones. It's just not like that, right? Hell, the percentage of people under the age of 18 given any form of irreversible procedures are astronomically low. They have to have been given medical oversight and been confirmed to have had gender dysphoria at a very young age for that to happen, like a very young age. And it's still very rare. Like, so rare it's it's negligible. But they hyper focus on it as if it's more common than it is, even though even if it was more common than it is, it wouldn't be a problem. The desistance rate among trans people is very low. And even among those that desist from transition, I'm not going to get into the whole spiel. Yeah, you've heard this a million times. You know, just watch Matt Walsh get it. Of thousands from millions to sound less wrong. He goes from millions, absolutely millions, whenever like he thinks he can lie to Joe Rogan and his audience without getting fact-checked. And then after getting fact-checked, he goalpost moves it to he would guess hundreds of thousands, which is less wrong than millions. And guessing rather than saying absolutely seems like you're open, like you never made the claim that it was absolutely that. See how good these guys are at moving the goalpost and not seem like they just got completely called out on their bullshit? Regardless, Joe Rogan recently had Tucker Carlson on his show, and this wasn't just a fact-checking moment. This was a full-on challenging moment. You see, Joe Rogan, for all of his weird far-right culture war nonsense, Joe Rogan is a I don't even know what to call it. He's like a neo-chud, right? Like, you've got your pre-Bush era, like, Bible-thumping, anti-weed, pro-drug war, like, war in Iraq and Afghanistan, like, super war hockey conservative types. And then you've got the post-Trump hip conservatives, you know, the types that have basically rooted 90% of their political beliefs in culture war stuff, and the other 10% is actual real-life policy. However, that means that Joe Rogan does not vibe with the boomer conservative style messaging of someone like Tucker Carlson, who has come onto a show to try to argue evolution isn't real. Now, if you don't know, Joe Rogan brings on scientists, physicists, anthropologists very frequently. We mostly just focus on Joe Rogan when he has political personalities on, but like a third of the people he has on are like MMA dudes and like sports guys. Another third are scientists and science popularizers, and the other third are political figures, you know? So a good third of his content's actually somewhat enriching when it's not him talking. And in this respect, he's brought on a lot of scientists, and he absolutely does not believe in creationism, or, yeah, real scientists. He absolutely does not believe in creationism. He just doesn't. And this is where we're going to get a surprisingly rare W from Joe Rogan. He ends up challenging Tucker Carlson here, and not even in, like, an accusatory way. He challenges him in the best way possible. Just asking questions specifying the holes in the conservative claim, and seeing how they flounder to try to explain it. Behold, a rare W from Joe Rogan against Tucker Carlson. I watched this already, to be clear. This is not a blind watch, rare case where I'm not watching something blind. I really enjoyed watching this when I saw it on my timeline for the first time. I just had to do a segment about it. Evolution is long-term adaptation. That is literally what evolution is. Evolution is when over long periods of time, living organisms adapt to their environment to suit a particular niche and fit into that little puzzle piece, and that puzzle piece morphs and changes shape over time as the environment changes over time. And if they survive by changing, then that's evolution. For example, modern-day crocodiles and alligators are pretty much exactly the same in, like, every way anatomically to how they were back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Mind you, the time dinosaurs roamed the earth was a long fucking time. But, like, the time, like, the end of the time of the dinosaurs, there were alligators that look like the ones you have in your Florida swamps today. They have barely changed because they are so well suited to survival in their given habitat, which is warm, swampy areas, and that's just where they keep to their own, and they are perfect for it. They're the apex predator of that environment. Nothing kills them, nothing eats them other than sometimes other gators, and they're just perfect for it. And there's also the dry, arid, like river-dwelling crocodiles that are good at taking down large prey. and small prey alike. They can hunt on land and in water. They're just so perfect. They haven't needed to adapt with any particular changes for a very long time. And so we see species like that exist in the fossil record almost identically going back 65 million plus years ago. And so with that, or 66 million plus years ago. And so with that in mind, like you can look at other species where you've got like transitional species. I know that, I watched an anthropology video about this last night. I should be able to do this. So obviously we're Homo sapiens, and we originated in like pretty much the southeastern part of Africa, if I remember correctly, is where like the first Homo sapiens seem to show up in the fossil record. And then over like a very long time, we migrated up into northern Africa and through land bridges that existed during lower times of sea levels due to higher ice cap activity, like lower temperatures and higher ice, like more ice on the poles, and so lower oceans, migrated up north into Europe and Asia, where they encountered other species of humans, such as Neanderthal, and there was another one. Was it what was it? Come on, there's someone in here who knows. There's someone in here who knows. Not Homo erectus, I don't think. Like, a lot of Europe was inhabited by... A lot of Europe and, like, Western Asia was inhabited by Neanderthal as Homo sapien came up from Africa to colonize Europe and Western Asia. Or I guess you would say Eastern Europe. But there was another Homo habilis? No, I don't know. But there was another species of... There was a time where like 4 different species of humans, including us, existed simultaneously. I can't remember all of them right now. They have long sciencey names. Neanderthal is one of them, and obviously Homo sapiens, us, is one of them. They are different species of humans. We all coexisted for like a decent amount of time, but they all died off and we kept around. This isn't like made up, by the way. Like, if you don't believe me, you can literally just fucking Google it. Seriously, Google it. It's actually very interesting. But yeah, we outlived the other species of humans. We also outfucked them. We fucked them out of existence. But they also weren't suited for living outside of their environment. Humans, like our type of humans, Homo sapiens, are the most evolutionarily developed that have ever existed bipedal primates for world domination. We've got like the perfect amount of like fat distribution and hair for surviving in cold environments, but like enough baldness and sweat like ability to survive in hot environments. We've got like enough hair on our bodies to ward off like too much sun damage while also having enough skin to like take advantage of the stuff that skin gives you as opposed to being covered in hair. Like, yeah, we kind of like check marked every box needed to be the superior species. We were the most adaptable, and so we survived. Adaptation is not a thing that magically happens. Adaptation is a thing that you can do. And if you cannot adapt, then you simply die in nature. That is how it works. Obviously, we're not talking about human society. We're talking about nature, especially pre-modern human nature, right? So yeah, like we literally have all of this shit in the fossil record. And I imagine, like, I don't know if Tucker Carlson is on the, like, fossils aren't real train or something. I've seen a lot of that becoming popular again on, like, conservative TikTok, so maybe he doesn't believe fossils are real. I don't know.
Dogs, through the...
Sure.
Litter to litter. But no, there's no evidence.
They always try to do this, by the way. They always try to say you can only see adaptation happen on a micro scale over a short period of time in a single generation. Like, they will never give you the ground that adaptation can be generational, because that is literally what evolution is. Have you heard Mac's argument? The fossil record is a shame. We're not doing It's Always Sunny memes right now.
And said all that, no.
Okay. For starters, yes, there is. Okay? Wait, the fossil record has species going... It's not even like the fact that we have to have a fossil record to show it. It's the fact that we can test DNA. We share like 78% of our DNA with bananas. Every living thing that we can test the DNA of and match up to our own, we have a startling amount of genetic similarity to, on par with being genetically related. Everything on the planet is genetically related to everything else that is alive. Obviously, there are very far back branches off at different points. Like, modern-day humans branched off from, like, quadrupedal apes a long fucking time ago. There were many iterations of bipedal sapiens before we got modern humans, which are Homo sapien. And there were many other forks, too. The other species of human that we coexisted with weren't like the other evolutionary steps to get to humans. Like, Neanderthals weren't like the evolutionary step behind humans. They were a fork in development that ended. There were many ended forks in development of what would be species. You know, like, I'm no scientist, but let's just say my science classes were the classes that I most consistently got A's on my report cards in. So it's always been my biggest passion, especially in regards to like dinosaurs, evolution, anthropology, ancient history, that kind of stuff. So I have enough like loose knowledge on this shit that I could probably push Tucker Carlson's shit in pretty hard and painfully in a debate. I think I could push his shit in. I was so excited for you guys to see this laugh he does. He laughs as if this was a big gotcha. Don't you know that back in ancient times when people thought the Earth was flat and the Earth and like the sun orbited the Earth, they also believed that God created all humans and animals? And then he hits him with this laugh.
Oh, the mid-19th century, actually.
Right, but
it's not a new idea.
They.
What was that? Like, he really needed to look like he got a gotcha there to like and laugh to disarm the look that he's being pressed right now. Because like, if Joe Rogan is pressuring you on a topic, you fucked up. Joe Rogan does not challenge people, especially not on the right, very often on topics like this or any topic at all. And Joe Rogan won't let up. Like, Joe Rogan's actually a decent enough debater because he'll just ask you questions, clarifying questions over and over and over again and pick apart whatever bullshit you're spewing. So if he detects that some conservative dumbfuck has like lied to him or is pushing some bullshit to him, he will fuck them up on his podcast and he will make them look like an idiot to his reminder, everyone. Little friendly reminder. The biggest podcast audience in the world. He is the biggest podcast by a long shot. Has the biggest audience of any podcast by a long shot. He is very influential. And remember, the primary majority of his audience are Americans. There's this really bizarre idea that's gotten popular lately, and I see it even among marginally progressive people, that not having children is selfish. I'm not even joking. Like, literally a disdain for people who've not had children. And I see it among, like, even somewhat progressive people that aren't, like, super tuned into politics. It seems like it's almost like one of those common sense takes that no one thinks about. They just kind of default to after they hear it repeated. As if, like, so first it was overpopulation is a huge problem, right? And some people still believe that. But now it's underpopulation is a huge problem. And if you don't have kids, you're selfish because you're not furthering the species. As if somehow existing mandates you to reproduce. Of course, this also throws in like a very bizarre addition of like, are incels right then in feeling like they are being oppressed for not getting laid or having a girlfriend or whatever? if like they are literally a bad, selfish person for not contributing to the repopulation of humanity. Like if they're not getting a girl pregnant, they're a bad person, and somehow they're also a bad person for not being upset about not being able to get a girl pregnant. Like, how does that logic follow? You can see why conservatives and red pill incels get along so well. It's not just the hatred of women, it's also the measuring of a man's value in anything whatsoever, regardless of their experience, and whether or not they live up to some bizarre, unimportant, but for some reason designated moral standard that must be met, you know?
Software engineers in Northern California to like flirt with the extinction of mankind.
I love how quickly he tries to change the topic to like a culture war issue about Northern Californian left-wing childless software engineers trying to flirt with the extinction of mankind. What? 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 Is bro talking about Boston Dynamics making Terminators? I feel like this image is the best representation of this thought process. There's an idea called the Zealot's Corner. You've got the classic like knowledge and conviction chart. Usually it's not humility sweet spot. Isn't usually on here. Usually this is a way of measuring Dunning-Kruger. You know, like yes, when you have like the least amount of knowledge, you are likely to feel, if you're in a state of Dunning-Kruger, the most confident that you are, like, you know everything about it. But as you get more knowledge, you start to level out to a somewhat baseline plateaued level of confidence that you know everything, or that you know about that, what there is everything to know about this. And it kind of plateaus out because once you reach a certain level of experience, you come to understand that you will never know everything, you know? And yet conservatives consistently exist in the Dunning-Kruger zone, or the Zealot's Corner, which is the minimum amount of knowledge on a topic, as Tucker Carlson demonstrated here, yet the highest possible levels of conviction in regards to it. It's a really dangerous combination, guys. It's a really dangerous combination, but I do like to see conservatives kind of hearkening back to that old school failed pre-Bush, pre-Obama conservatism, you know, pre-Trump conservatism. The whole like, evolution's not real. Like, I don't even think most Trump supporters don't believe in evolution, for as crazy as they are. But we'll see how this goes for them. And even Joe Rogan is fighting back against it. We'll see how this goes. Anyway, I'm curious to see what you guys think of all this. Comment down below so I can see. And of course, if you want to boost the channel, commenting also helps, because engagement boosts the channel. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And of course, if you want to support me even further, you can always drop a like. It really means a lot. Every single thumbs up in my videos, streams, and VODs pushes my content in the algorithm and really, really helps. And of course, if you want to support me financially and you got the money for it, I really do appreciate it if you guys donate, subscribe, or gift a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buying merch through the Streamlabs link down below. You can also join my Discord server, where I do announcements for every stream and video, where I also do watch parties and call-in streams and all sorts of cool like fan events and all that kind of stuff. It's basically the hub for the Xander Hall community, so I hope to see you in the Discord server. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed.